everyone. So today we have a student from the University of Chicago. His name is Marcus. And Marcus, can you go ahead and please introduce yourself?
So, hi, I'm Markis Cheng. I'm an incoming freshman at the University of Chicago. I'm planning to major in economics with a specialization in data science. And anything else you need me to introduce?
Well, I
Like,
think that was great. I think, it was great to talk about your majors. And so I guess, first and foremost, let's actually go into your intended major. You said you plan on doing economics with, a specific concentration in data science. So I guess, obviously, first and foremost, why that specific major and why that specific concentration?
so at first, I wanted to major in environmental science, but I thought about it. I felt like majoring in econ with that specific specialization in data science would give me more practical degree. And then, so I'm gonna minor in environmental studies in order to, balance out what I like and what is practical. And I feel like with data science, it is much more like useful skill out in the field and out in the real world, and I can integrate it into like other parts of
Yeah, that's
like, yeah.
awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. And I think, I think just to follow up on that. So I guess where did your interest in like, econ data science or even environmental science, like where did you get your interest for choosing that specific major to study? Like, did you get that from high school or just something that you thought would be practical in the future?
So with my major data science, I recently took stats during my senior year. I found it really interesting how the way numbers work and how you can like track data and predict trends more or less, and see just predict outcomes and seeing how trends can influence like future events. And I thought it was really interesting. And with econ, I recently started doing like day trading over the senior year with
Mhm.
a custodial account responsibly.
Okay,
And
okay, good.
I just found it really interesting to see how politics and just like real world events can play into the human mindset, and especially in terms of finance and currency. I thought it was really interesting. So
Mhm.
I thought it would be really practical to major in that. And for environmental science, I just had this like love for the environment when I was like really young. So I feel like with those two, with that as a major and that as a minor, it's really even balance, and I think I could really handle it at the University of Chicago. Yeah.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with you on your discussion when you're talking about economics. I think a lot of people think of economics more like the business mindset or just doing math, but they don't realize that economics has a lot of political aspects to it too. There's a lot of liberal arts kind of aspects that play into role for
Mhm.
economics. So I think I'm glad that you touched up on that. Yeah, it was great. So obviously, you're going to be attending the University of Chicago. So I guess first and foremost, congratulations on getting accepted for
Thank
this.
you, thank you.
So I guess obviously you had a lot of colleges that you could have chosen, but you obviously chose Chicago. So I guess why did you choose on attending U Chicago?
Well, I had to attend because I did ED2, but jokes aside, University of Chicago has lots of opportunities, especially in terms like research and internships. There's like this like thing that goes around where there are more internships and job opportunities than there are undergrads. So that was first and foremost the thing that really appealed to me.
Mhm.
And the University of Chicago has an interesting thing where they have a core curriculum where you have to take mandatory humanities classes and a social science class. And
Mhm.
I always found myself leaning towards like a liberal education, where learning more about human thinking and human civilization, as well as like STEM and other courses like that. So I felt that the University of Chicago could help me like, hone in on those interests and not only give me like a deeper understanding of like the world around me, but of myself, so to say. Yeah.
That's awesome. And yeah, I think we'll touch up on. So obviously, you mentioned that you did apply early decision to University of Chicago. And for those that don't know what ED is, it's basically it's like you obviously it's like you apply early, but if you get accepted, it's a pretty much a binding contract where you have to attend that school. So obviously, there's kind of like that risk where, or not a risk per se, but like you have to really be confident in wanting to attend Chicago. So um, was it based on what you just told me, or was there a specific factor that really told you, like, yeah, I will 100% commit to Chicago if I got accepted? Like, what was that big factor that was like that you knew you were gonna attend no matter what?
I just felt like the environment, like the student life at University of Chicago is completely unique compared to like other like universities and elite institutions, because the University of Chicago really focuses on like the unique and the peculiar, you can say. Like the students that go there are like from all sorts of different like backgrounds, and most most if not all of them have some sort of interesting like tidbit about them. And I felt like the University of Chicago has like this honed in academic like environment, and I really want to like go there to see how well I can develop myself. So that was like one of the biggest deciding factors of me deciding to early decision to Chicago.
All right, awesome. Yeah, it's great. And I think obviously, since we don't have you really going and having that college experience yet, obviously you just got accepted. I'm still going to be an incoming freshman. I guess first and foremost, let's start transitioning a little bit more to senior year. So just recently, everything that's just happened. So yeah, let's talk about first semester. I think second semester is probably equally as depressing as the first semester, but first semester. So college application process. First and foremost, I guess how would you summarize your entire application season?
To be frank, it was quite daunting because I feel like I didn't get enough help from where I attended. I felt like you were kind of just thrown in the water and expected to do what you like, expected to know what was up, and like you had to like kind of like know already like how the gears working and stuff like that. So if you weren't like to say the cream of the crop of the class, you were not given as much help as you should have. So I felt like it was really hard for me to like understand like the common application and all the like filling out financial aid and stuff like that. It was just really complicated and really stressful. And I feel like most schools should like um, invest more in those type of resources in order to help students like first gen students or minorities, because most of the time they don't get the financial resources to actually know how to do the college process. But after a while, like of like testing and like looking up on Reddit and Quora about how to do certain application processes, it became slightly easier, and I had a lot of friends to help too, so that was really big plus.
Yeah, that's great. And I like how you mentioned, obviously, maybe the school didn't provide you as much as you wanted it. And yeah, again, as much as we would like for schools to provide, finances and funding into helping students in those aspects for higher education, the truth is that, a lot of school districts out there don't have the capabilities or funding to do so. They're probably even less fortunate than what we were given. So I guess, in your opinion, obviously you mentioned that using the internet was a big resource for you, except especially since, you're one of the eldest in your family, in terms of siblings, and maybe you didn't have as many people to kind of guide you, personally in your family life. So when you're using the internet and stuff, what were you specifically like searching for or like researching in detail, like, over the internet?
So most of it, okay, so I was in terms of a college application, I went on this subreddit. It's called A2C. It's applying to college. I
Uh-huh.
found that site extremely useful. Not unlike College Confidential, which is a bunch of parents. A2C was had a lot of students like me who didn't know what they were really doing, but everyone in that community was really helpful, and they kind of guided like it was like a giant collective of us like guiding where like us making mistakes and us like triumphing. So it was a really helpful resource to have. And I thought most like Reddit was just a really important resource for me because I also got in contact with a bunch of like admissions officers or that were able to read my essays, and I found that really helpful. They were able to give me feedback. So researching, it's sometimes you find like these really niche like information sources, and they can be really helpful. What else did I research? I also did a lot of research. I'm using the internet to research like colleges and also coming in contact with other alumni, because alumni is also very like helpful in terms of researching your college and if that college is what you're looking for. So just networking and finding these niche information sources was like the main purpose of the internet for me.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. I think it's kind of a lot of people think Reddit is pretty like taboo, like you don't like go on there. But
Yeah.
honestly, ironically, Reddit is probably one of the most helpful things because the thing is, you want genuine responses, and Reddit gives you that. Like it's sometimes can be brutally honest, but it gives you honest responses because everyone's anonymous. People are coming in from different backgrounds, so low key, like Reddit is a pretty good source to go in towards. And I agree with you. There are a lot of actually like even college professors or admission officers who happen to be on Reddit for some reason. So it's actually kind of helpful because you can actually talk with them and see how things work. And obviously in your case, it seemed everything worked out. So it's definitely I think you're a validation to show that Reddit does help out with the college application process. Yeah. I think another thing we mentioned is that's big for senior year is time management. You're
Mhm.
managing school, you're managing extracurriculars. Like obviously, I know you had a lot of other extracurriculars to do as well, and then you still have to balance the college application essays, filling forms out, financial aid and whatnot. So for you, how were you able to like balance your time efficiently, or did you believe that you even balance your time efficiently?
So as for me, I tried at the beginning of August, I tried making a comprehensive schedule to plan out what I wanted to do and what I wanted to apply. But I felt like having a schedule was made things too like restricting for me. So I kind of shifted over towards like a tentative schedule of setting like setting like progressive goals instead of like certain like dates because I kind of restricted things to like week like couple days at a time and it kind of hindered like the quality of my application. So I feel like you just have to finish your top priorities one at a time, so you can really hone in on the quality of each aspect of your application.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think that's definitely some great advice. And especially since everyone has a different approach to time management. I think I really like how you have a like a kind of a different perspective on it. Yeah. And I think, I guess just to wrap up kind of more of college applications in itself. So if you could redo the entire process, which I mean, no one wants to do that, but if you could redo the entire thing, go back to, August, September, or, whatever you want, what would you have done differently? Or what was something you would have changed if you could do it again?
Ooh, hmm. Let me think. I think I would have put more time in researching what schools I wanted to go to
Mhm.
and kind of really like finalize what I wanted to like major in. I know not everyone is so certain about what they want to major in, but I feel like getting a general idea of what you want for the next 4 years and making the most out of your undergrad experience and really searching for those opportunities for your college application to like really help you with those future opportunities is really helpful. So perhaps like honing in on like what you want to do and where you want to go earlier is better than leaving it like last minute.
Yeah, and actually, to follow up on that, obviously you mentioned, finding out more colleges to apply to. I think that's definitely a good thing because some students they don't realize they apply to either too much or too little sometimes. That they never figure out the right balance.
Mhm.
But in your situation, you applied ED, so obviously you'll get the decision earlier, and it kind of impacts your other. Did you applying ED impact the other schools that you were planning to apply to?
Like in terms of like not waiting for regular decision or something like
Yeah,
that.
like in terms of like not waiting for that, or like, did you apply when you were applying to ED? Did you like, oh, should I apply to more schools or like less schools? Because you know how like ED has that binding
Oh
on.
yeah.
So
So
did that impact you?
yeah. So I ended when I did ED, I put a lot of like time and effort into that one application.
Mhm.
So it kind of made me realize like I shouldn't go for like quantity at this point. I should just go for quality. So I ended up cutting down my college list by like five or
Mm.
10. It was a lot. And I ended up trying to focus more on the quality of my applications rather than the quantity of how many I submitted. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I definitely agree with you, especially if you're going to apply to a school like early action, restrictive early action, or even early decision. Obviously, you're going to put more effort into it because you're going to apply early to a school if you're super passionate about attending there. So obviously, people will spend more time in that. And yeah, no, I think that's great. I think I'm going to move on now to another topic. It's a topic that it's something that many kids don't want to admit to talk about because it's pretty um, it's a very stereotypical thing to mention, but it's regarding competition among students. College the thing with the college application process is that it's a competition. You're competing with other students in order to get a specific spot at a certain school, a certain specific program, whatnot. And because of that, a lot of times it affects students, not only like their mental health, but like the way they perform in school. So, in your opinion, what was competition like among students for your specific school?
So at my school, I feel like there wasn't like a blatant competition, but it was more like an underlying factor in the entirety of the college application process. Like people wouldn't outright say it, but you can feel like there was some sort of like competitiveness and kind of scramble to the top amongst the students. And it kind of like it kind of gnaws on you over time because you kind of build up this like expectation like, oh, I have to do well or my peers are going to look different of me. And people aren't like sabotaging you or anything, but it's more like they're keeping like this constant like force of pressure. And when I okay, the story time. So
Yeah,
I
sure.
actually did two EDs. I did ED1 to Northwestern, and
Mhm.
I did ED2 to University of Chicago. And with my ED to Northwestern, I kind of made it a competition against my other peers rather than doing it solely for myself. And I was kind of blinded by trying to get in early, and I didn't really get to focus on like my college application and like who it really like represented myself as a person. But then when ED2 came around, I kind of shifted that kind of competitive spirit to, top my peers, and I kind of focused more about myself and kind of showing my genuine side, and it ultimately turned out. So in regards to competition, if competition at school is kind of tough, I feel like it is best to keep your goals to yourself. So you know what you want, and like there's no like outside factors affecting what you truly want. So yeah.
Awesome. And I think to follow up on that, do you think competition can be avoided, or do you think it's kind of necessary in the college application
I
process?
feel like now when as like society continues to progress, competition in the college process is going to continue getting more and more competitive as students try to differentiate themselves from other brilliant and unique students. So there's always going to be some sort of competition amongst those students, and I think no matter what, you should just continue persevering through that and don't let it affect you where it comes to like hinder the quality of your application and who you represent yourself as.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I think, just one more question to kind of wrap up the whole competition thing. So
Mhm.
obviously you mentioned, I like how you mentioned that kind of keep your goals to yourself in the sense that you know what you're aiming for and what you're succeeding. Because, you compete with other people, you start to become a little bit less focused on your goals. And you start caring about their goals, like, oh, they want to get into the school, but I need to get into it rather than them. But that being said, even if you focus on yourself, there's obviously a lot of friends that you have that you can obviously ask and work around with. So cooperation is still a big thing in high school. So I guess for you, how did you kind of like work with people that you actually trusted and you knew would help support you, or and vice versa, like you would be able to support them? Like how did that work for you?
So luckily, I had a really supportive, like, kind of college application group. It
Mm.
was like I had a group of three other friends, and we kind of just every day we kind of just battled it out, and we kind of just hammered out some college applications. And I think I just gained that trust over time. I kind of knew them before, like we were already good friends prior, and I just feel like having good friends going into your college application process and friends that will be brutally honest with you and give you good advice about how to move forward is really crucial in terms of like coping with the college application process, because it's hard to really gauge how well the caliber of your application is unless you have like other students with a different perspective to give you feedback. So it's important to like get some friends you trust, and I think it's also important to have like people, not like friends but like acquaintances who will also give you like a trustworthy like review of your application too. So it's a balance of both.
Yeah, no, I think it's awesome. You know, I think college applications specifically, you start to realize how close your friends become, both like upperclassmen or even your own grade, because they are your support system. And even though you're going to have competition or a bunch of crises going on around you, it's important that at least you have those people to fall back on. And I think just to kind of wrap up this entire video, so if you could give advice to high school students, whether that be about the college application process or just life in general, what would you tell them?
I'm pretty sure you may have like heard this 1,000 times, a million times, but I feel like it's good to be your genuine self. I don't think you should put up a facade to impress or to get into some or to like chase some prestige. I feel like it's important to like know what you want, know what your goals are, and know how to strive for them. So yeah, that's
Yeah,
my.
no, yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. Especially if you want to like make yourself stand out, just focus on like what is true. Because then if you try to fake it, you're not gonna be as passionate about writing it on your essays, and you're gonna feel weird about writing something that like you're just BSing an entire story. And to some extent, yeah, the essays can be exaggerated, but within a limit, how passionate and actually truthful it is. But yeah, I agree with you in the sense that not to create someone that you're not, or portray someone that's not who you actually are, because then it'll be, I think your chances would actually be a lot lower than if you
Mhm.
actually said what you wanted to say. But yeah, so obviously, Marcus, we want to thank you so much for coming out and doing a talk with us. Obviously, like I said, congrats on U Chicago, congrats on graduating. I know the semester didn't turn out, as planned, but yeah, obviously, nonetheless, congrats on everything for that. Obviously, best of luck to you in the future semesters. And for everyone watching this, we obviously hope that you got a lot of information from it. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.